I really enjoy the job that I have the privilege of doing, but I also have a tremendous balance, and I care about nothing more than my happiness. I care about nothing more than pleasure, and I feel as though there's been such a war on women's pleasure in particular. It's considered this privilege, not a right. You know, that's why in the chocolate adverts from when we were growing up, the woman has like an orgasm from eating a bite of chocolate because she can't believe. Maybe. Yeah, but she can't believe. She's like, oh, something nice for the day.
Yeah.
And so I believe that pleasure should be my main focus in life, and that's everything that I am gunning towards, and I'm not going to find that always within this system.
Oh, we are going to have a tremendous conversation here today. Guys, did you know that Monica Lewinsky had a podcast? Me neither, all right? When it came across my timeline, I said, what is this and why does she look familiar, all right? Now, we have to have a debrief in regards to the podcast and one of the guests that came up there to besmirch men in general. But if you don't know who Monica Lewinsky is, then you're probably too young for this channel. But nevertheless, she was a lovely young woman who was a White House intern and got close and had an everlasting bond with the leader of the free world at the time, Bill Clinton, and inevitably the relationship materialized into where she slopped on his knob, like cone on the cob. Check in with me and do your job. Forgive me, all right? Sometimes I'm unprofessional. Nevertheless, guys, I want to go through this content here today because the guest on the Monica Lewinsky podcast is absolutely fundamentally insane. But of course, Monica, in reclaiming like power again back from what was once lost and stolen from me because I didn't know what I was doing and all this other bullshit. Of course, she's going to be siding with the feminist propaganda levied across from her, from this obvious hater of men. So a lot of these talking points we got to be able to talk about in a way to dispatch evil.
You shall not pass!
So buckle up and let's get active without further ado. Now, this is the clip that I came across that introduced me to the podcast. Let's listen.
Boys aren't raised to be men. Boys are raised just not to be girls. And I think that is the crisis of our society. There's no real role modelling. They're just told what not to be. They're terrorised and terrified of anything that feels remotely feminine and female. And actually, women are terribly strong, and we know that because if after almost somewhere between 6,000 and 10,000 years of patriarchy, we still haven't submitted, I don't think we're going to. And if you have to marry us off at the age of 9, then what does that tell you?
Yeah.
Like, how afraid must you be of us? You only seek to destroy something that you're afraid of. You would only need to take our voting rights away or take away our right to education because you're afraid of what would happen if we know. You're only afraid of older women and older women having a voice and an opinion and access to younger women if you're afraid of what they're going to tell other women. You're afraid of sitting with or dating a woman your own age because she might be able to actually see you. So you have to date someone who's barely out of her teens because she won't have your number because she doesn't even understand the world yet. It's all fear. All of it's fear. It's hatred. It's a mask of hatred, but really it's terror. They're so afraid of us, and it's so sad because that strength that we have doesn't have to be subdued. It could be harnessed more intelligently than this.
Okay. I'm so sorry. The amount of bullshit per second, like I couldn't even stop it. I just had to let you guys just kind of listen to it. Before we talk more about it, though, take a look at these analytics. 480,000 likes. This got over 5 million views advertising this feminist girl boss bullshit ass podcast. And of course, the most famous eggplant slurper known to mankind would be agreeing and yesing this harmful woman to death because it, again, obfuscates accountability, because if you always paint men as a villain of a society of which you currently live in, then as a woman, you never have to take accountability because it's all the man's damn fault. Now, my next thought was, who is the evil woman that Monica Lewinsky is speaking to? And we're going to go over to her Instagram real quick, just really briefly. I don't know who this woman is. She goes by the name Jamil Hill, 4 million subscribers. Apparently, she's a self-described actor, writer, progressive, and feminist in progress. And just a quick look down, she's got covers of Vogue and Glamour, okay? So this is somebody who gets paid by the engine of man hate, right? Quick emergency meeting. I was recently searching for my name online and found way too much personal information, which brought me down this weird rabbit hole of how that could have happened, and found out that there's companies out there called data brokers that will sell your data to marketers, scammers, and even stalkers. And it's a nasty, disgusting feeling knowing that there's bad actors out there selling my information, selling your information for profit. But that's why I'm recommending today's sponsor, Aura. Now, I use Aura to automatically remove my information from these sites and keep my information off. But they do other things as well, such as bank fraud and identity theft alerts, VPN access. But guys, utilize my link down in the description box down below for a 14-day trial. At least see if you've been compromised. Privacy is king in this day and age, and you should know if your information is out there. So again, utilize my link, aura.com/MTR, in the description box down below to try 2 weeks free. That's way more than enough time to see if your personal data has been exposed. Go now. I also briefly took a little look at her bio in order to understand, because generally women who steep themselves in this degree of victimhood, generally their hate is really not for men, it's for themselves, right? And they've been through a whole lot of stuff and haven't dealt with it, so they project outward instead of fixing inward. And you find here, she suffered from a lot of deep depression, OCD. She tried to self-delete and has had an eating disorder to the degree where it damaged her kidney, her liver, and her digestive system and her heart. So just as I thought, this is a trauma-filled, mentally unwell person that can articulate hate in a way to make a modern woman feel like it's women's empowerment. Nevertheless, I found their larger podcast. Let's go through some of the highlights of that podcast so we can dive deeper.
And so I really enjoy the job that I have the privilege of doing, but I also have a tremendous balance, and I care about nothing more than my happiness. I care about nothing more than pleasure. And I feel as though there's been such a war on women's pleasure in particular. It's considered this privilege, not a right. That's why in the chocolate adverts from when we were growing up, the woman has like an orgasm from eating a bite of chocolate because she can't believe. Maybe. Yeah, but she can't believe. She's like, oh, something nice for the day. Yeah. And so I believe that pleasure should be my main focus in life. And that's everything that I am gunning towards. And I'm not going to find that always within this system.
Yeah. Well, unpack for me.
No. It's fascinating to me that when you sit and you listen to these feminists speak to each other, they just confirm all of the talking points that I speak of. What underpins this mindset is selfishness. It's never about duty. It's never about serving of. And also explains her quote to a T in the first clip. That boys are not raised to be men, but they're raised to be not like girls. With so many boys being raised in single-parent households that are governed by women, a boy watching a woman orient the way that she lives her life in this mindset will never turn a boy into a man, which is why I say you have to keep men who understand duty, masculine duty in a relationship, and they have to watch this and mirror this, or they're going to miss the fundamental lessons, which also explains why so many advertisers just target women, because logic would tell you not to purchase something, but your emotions or this never-ending lust of pleasure makes you an easy damn target. A perfect example of this is the Akash simp situation, where he did not set financial boundaries for that demon woman of a wife. She in turn runs him ragged or runs him dry through her seek of materialism, which is her pleasure. Meanwhile, he gets gaslit into never setting a structure or a limit, so he has no respect in that relationship.
What pleasure is for you.
Okay.
So like what's underneath pleasure? Do you know what I mean? Like is that your soul's expression? Is that feeling like, does that make sense, this question?
Yeah.
If there was nothing but this type of woman around, then we'd all have an excuse for being maidenless. All right? Little Elden Ring reference for y'all.
Okay.
Yeah. Pleasure for me personally, and I think it's completely different for everyone.
Okay.
But ultimately it's peace.
Okay.
Ultimately peace is pleasureful, but also delicious food, treating my body kindly, not denying myself, not starving, not masking obedience as discipline. It means spending time with my loved ones. It means laughing a lot, like belly laughing every single day, spending time with my animals, spending time with my boyfriend, orgasms, seeing beautiful things. I was raised to believe that, you know, there is this sort of point system, and it's ironic that I made The Good Place, which is actually a show about the point system. But, you know, you believe that, you know, we're raised, especially if you're raised religiously, to believe that, well, life is just the bit that you get through and you do as well as you can because the afterlife is going to be so great. And I stopped really feeling confident about an afterlife in my teens. And so after that, I started to think, I don't think I want to live my life for this like utopian guarantee.
A gamble.
Yeah, it's a gamble. It's a lottery. You know, and I had a near-death experience when I was 15, I think. I had meningitis. And I don't know, man. Who am I to say? But I didn't see shit. And I think that's what like radicalized me against the idea of living now through all this punishment to then just have this great, you know, promise of an alleged afterlife. So I really just think life is not a test, it's an adventure. We're here to have as much fun as possible. We're here to come as often as possible. And I think if we were doing so, there would be far less war and far less problems and less violence. And I think that we are here to spend quality time and really get to know not only ourselves, but each other. Human beings are so magical to me. They are my obsession. And just getting into the weeds of other people is what lights up my brain. So pleasure is just lighting up my brain.
Now, I'm sure that we can all agree with just a couple of things of that, right? We all get one life. We got to be able to live it in what ways that we find happiness within that life. But do understand that if you have the opportunity to speak like her in regards to pleasure, that how much of a degree of comfort and privilege that you must be speaking from. Please don't lose sight of that. And I often think that many of these women, and she's probably a multi-millionaire, still act as if they are in a third world country in a patriarchal regime, one of which men are actively and are currently oppressing them and they do not have any rights. And men are afraid of us and are about to storm the castle to take away our rights. Meanwhile, it was men that civilized the world enough for her to be able to have a lifestyle like the one that she is so privileged to live through today. The men who civilized this world could not operate in a state of ultimate pleasure. They needed to set boundaries and create discipline within that in order to push forward in the face of violence, in the face of destruction, in the face of war. For the sacrifice is what was necessary to enjoy your cushy-ass life as it exists today. Let's proceed.
Yeah.
It's stimulating myself and having
it's
peace.
It's interesting because I think some of what's coming up for me is you know, there's so much suffering in the world. And so it's that I think in the last 10, 11 years, I've felt a lot of sense of purpose in helping to ease other people's suffering. And in a way that the pleasure and the suffering, they sort of not go together, but they're
that was good technique,
the opposites.
Monica.
And so it's that sense of can we live in a world that's about more pleasure when there's so much suffering? Or does orienting towards that life of pleasure?
But I don't think, you know, if you look at the way that I live my life, there's no lack of advocacy. But I find I take pleasure in using my life in a way that is meaningful and purposeful. I take pleasure in being stimulated. That is one of the things that lights up my brain, is working out how to fix the puzzle and working out how to, like I said, my obsession is people. So I am a full-time advocate. And it is my main passion far beyond entertainment. But that is something that I consider I'd much rather spend my time doing that than punishing my body for not looking like a 14-year-old pedophile's dream.
What?
I am just happier to use my brain in the way that it was actually built. So I consider that important, but also I think it is imperative, and I think most great social justice activists throughout history have always said that you must maintain balance. So with all of the horror in the world, it is unsustainable. And I was someone who once didn't have any pleasure in my life, and it was just give to everyone and anyone around me. And I found myself barren of any energy. And then I had a nervous breakdown and then I got really sick.
Yeah, because you're crazy. The amount of hate that you have to have in your heart. Monica Lewinsky to ask you a simple ass question, and somehow in there, men are pedophiles. Like, like the degree of cope or loser or clown that exists within you is absolutely insane. All she asked you was a simple reflection question on pleasure when so many other people in the world are suffering, which is some of my comments as well, because she speaks from this goddamn pedestal. And then she talks about all this advocacy. I still advocate. And what actually happened is that she got triggered that she was challenged and diverted the point for hate for men of her doing something in her body to look like a pedophile's dream, which had nothing to do with the damn point, you sick, sad, crazy woman. But let's proceed.
And then I wasn't able to help. I give to everyone and anyone around me. And I found myself barren of any energy. And then I had a nervous breakdown and then I got really sick. So it's not sustainable. And then I wasn't able to help anyone. So you must live a life in which you salvage the good and the joy wherever you can and not feel guilt about it unless it's at someone else's expense. Because otherwise, what good are you to anyone when you're just a husk? And women in particular are expected only to withdraw. There is no talk of deposit. You know,
What?
a fucking bunch of flowers like once a year on the anniversary if it's remembered. There isn't much emphasis on society depositing happiness in women. Even wellness culture is ultimately around making us look less tired than we actually are from the shit we have to eat all day. It's all about the way that we look to society. So little of what is actually invested in women is about our peace and our joy and our happiness and our pleasure. I really I struggle with the way that self-care is packaged for women.
Yeah, I agree.
What? How could you agree with that, Monica? Literally everything in the Western world is built for the comfort and safety and protection of women and children. Men have built the roads, the system, the infrastructure, the law, the order, so women can feel safe enough in a civilized society to do whatever it is that they want to do. Imagine being in the freest country known to mankind, trying to act like people are doing things to you in society, which is just not true. It gives her a bag, by the way, so I understand behind what's driving this bullshit while talking from a place of pure and utter privilege. Meanwhile, there are women that actually live in what it is that she is describing. You think those women who cannot advocate for themselves become tired, shallow husk of themselves, and they're just unable to give and to advocate? No. They don't have a choice as you're covering Vogue magazine half damn naked. Give this woman a body cam, drop her somewhere in the Middle East, for example, where the level of safety, freedom, and rights is highly questionable, and you're going to come back with a completely new understanding of what real patriarchy is.
I think it's become, well, it's like most anything, when it starts to become a big business, it becomes something very different than where, I mean, spirituality's become that too. I mean, the number of times, I don't know where you fall on the woo-woo scale, but I'm very woo-woo. And so the number of times now that you just start to see concepts and terms being used in these bigger ways.
Yeah.
And you just, or someone will try and school you.
I mean, so much of my culture has now been turned into a wellness space. I don't know. I would like an extension of the self-care industry that also works on the inside rather than just finding a way to survive this world, which is what it feels like it is now.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, let's move forward in the conversation right now. I can't take no more of this surviving because what it feels like, right? Like I can't take this bullshit victim shit anymore. But they begin a conversation about gender roles and patriarchy in about 5 to 10 minutes or so. So let's just go there.
And so I think I just feel very, with not with a sense of misandry, with a sense of huge empathy. I would like to help men and women organize together against patriarchy, because it's fucking all of us. Like the suicide rates are largely men, homelessness largely men, addiction largely men, the people who will die at war largely men. I really, really believe that we need to have like a really big sit down, men and women together, and go, the patriarchy is actually designed to fuck you, and we're a distraction. We are the distraction to make you think you're fucking us over, but actually you're the ones who are going to get conscripted, not us. You're the ones who are going to get sent down the mines. You're the ones who are going to end up doing the most dangerous and unnecessary jobs in society for wealthy, powerful men at the top. Because if we could come together and organize, then perhaps we could live in a peaceful world, and they could just get off our fucking necks so that we could live in an organized society. There is no society in which women are oppressed that has a strong GDP, a high mental health rate, a functioning society, all the places that allow women to not just have freedom, but take some of the burden off of men as well, lead to a happier world. And we know that. So it's so sad to watch this backslide globally.
Yeah. Do you think it's possible that the way AI may dismantle so many things in society, that it may get so bad that it leads to this actually being able to happen?
Oh, man. Before we get there. So it's patriarchy's fault that there are jobs that are inherently dangerous. And because they're dangerous, they are unnecessary. Are we calling mining unnecessary? Are we calling offshore rigging unnecessary? Are we calling truckers in like distant land, right? Like ice road truckers, is that unnecessary? These are necessary jobs that are needed in order to keep whatever product that they are producing going forward. Some of those very products you enjoy from the comfort of your damn home, but you're painting this delusion that, like, I don't know if women are going to pick up the slack, or that we need to live in a utopia, delusional utopia, where these things are just not necessary or needed. Whereas I think that the men that do this need to acknowledge that they are dangerous and should be compensated for the degree of danger, and should be respected in society, and not made to think that because they're a man that they're inherently evil. For it is talking points that you will espouse that makes men feel littler than what they actually are, or undervalued, or just plain not valued for what they contribute to society. That's why I go out my way to big up the blue-collar savages that will watch a channel like myself, because I understand the rigor that they go through each and every day, and their importance to the infrastructure of our society.
I don't know. I don't really know, because I don't know if it's just men or human beings, but I think that people or men like to believe that there's someone lower than them in order to not recognize where they stand in society. They are more bred towards hierarchy than women are. Women are by nature, it's obviously it's possible for someone to adopt hierarchy, and there are many misogynist women in the world, but largely women are egalitarian by nature, and men are bred to be more hierarchical. So I don't know. I think this has to be a conscious decision of understanding that it benefits you when women are empowered, when they're fulfilled, when they're stimulated. You have a stimulating person to come home to who's actually got something to say for herself because she went out into the world and did something for herself. She can take some of the burden and some of the slack off of you, so you can also spend time with your kids, so that they don't fucking hate you when you're old, when they get older. You can have time with your friends as well. There's a whole restructuring of society that leads to a softer life for everyone, and then we won't push.
So are you trying to empower women to be ice road truckers? Like, is that what I'm hearing? Or is it an empowerment to be in C-suite versus an empowerment for these rough and tough, dangerous, strength necessary jobs?
Them away at the numbers that we're pushing them away. This is the first time in history that women have ever had to choose men not based on necessity or survival, but based on their characters. And look at what's happening. There's a male loneliness epidemic. Like, this has to be addressed for the sake of women, but also of men.
So is there, from what you've seen in looking at things through this lens, like in the same-sex relationships, is it about the roles? Is it?
From what I see of same-sex relationships, I think there tends to be more egalitarianism, and especially amongst the women I know who are raising children together. Both parties have the mental load. Both parties anticipate each other's needs. You know, I'm not saying it's perfect.
Lesbian relationships have the highest DV and divorce rate, by the way. But let's just proceed.
And there's definitely reports of intimate partner violence that can happen between women. That intimate partner violence is of a much less severe and deadly nature than it is when it's between heteronormative couples. I'm not saying that it's a utopia, but I am saying that because there's less of this fear of emasculating anyone, everyone just takes on the load. Loads of women are now starting to leave their husbands and move in with other single mothers and start communities together where everyone knows, no one has to delegate to each other.
Right.
They're able to just take some fucking initiative. And that's really sad for men, because I believe men would enjoy being a part of this. I believe men would have more self-esteem if they were to, you know, rise up to the situation. So, you know, I'm not about calling men out. I don't think it's worthwhile calling them in. I'm calling men up, because I believe in men. And I think the men in the manosphere who say, nah, the only way to have a functioning society is to keep these bitches down because they're catching up too fast.
Who
I think
says
those men
that?
are deeply emasculating, because they
Dog,
don't
this is like, it's the ultimate straw man. Who says that? Who? Please, if you're watching this video right now, write down in the comment section, who is she even talking about? They will stop at nothing to strawman arguments to paint a bad picture or representation towards something that has nothing to do with talking points that sector of men espouse. But did you just see how easily she glanced over the same-sex numbers that I teased out? Same-sex women have the highest DV and divorce rate, and there is no example in society of a matriarchal or a mostly women society that has thrived and grown. So let's stop acting and pretending like women that are becoming lesbians through their failed relationship is like a beneficial thing. And in fact, if that continues to happen, the birth rate is going to go down. That's our inevitable extinction. And they talk about this male loneliness epidemic, which I describe as a male solitude epidemic. But guess what? If the men are alone, then where do you explain where the women are going? Either they're all sharing the same man, or are you asserting that most women are now in relationships with other women? What's happening is on both sides of the coin, both male and female. But you don't want to seem like you're not powerful, right? So why would you say that? By the way, do we have any examples of what happens when societies ran by women versus men operate if given the same criteria?
To get to the island, the women have no choice but to swim to the shore in the clothes they're wearing.
No dry clothes and no fire.
Yeah!
It's gonna take hours.
We got 0 sleep last night. We stayed up the entire night, and we haven't had fire because it rained and put it out, so now we haven't eaten.
I have no shame. I've never been so miserable. I couldn't get my tail over there to that fire fast enough. Come on.
Y'all should watch the full episode in order to get the context. The men identified who did what best. They divided and conquered. They set up hierarchies, whereas the women held together in egalitarianism and tried to just, figure everything out. And if they didn't make the decision to give way to the men, then they would not have survived.
think that you're shit. They don't think you can grow. They don't think you can develop initiative. They don't think that you can grow emotionally. They're telling you to stay where you are and just keep everyone else down, hold the women down. Mm-hmm. That to me is deeply emasculating. I'm saying to men, I believe in you. I know what you're capable of. If women could catch up this fast to where, 40 years since we've had access to bank accounts, we're now a viable, credible threat, and we're outperforming them in certain industries, at school, in the market, in the property market. We are 80%, I think, of consumers still. If women can match all of that in just a matter of decades, after several thousand years of having all of our rights stripped away from us, including being married off as children, I believe men can achieve more than they are currently achieving. And so I'm calling them up because I believe in them and I love them.
I'm surprised she's not doing bird hands as she says this, but it comes from a not loving perspective. It's undermining. And I know this because of the word choices that she's using. Threat? Why would you utilize threat to describe how men and women can operate together? It doesn't come from a place of togetherness. It comes from a place of competition, of opposition. And through your hate-filled words, you're now patronizing in your tone, directing men that they can do better by listening to this bullshit of which you currently do not even exist in.
How is that different? I'm not challenging you. I'm trying
Challenge
to
her!
understand.
Being challenged.
Oh, well,
You should challenge me all the time.
how is calling up different from calling in?
Because I think that there's a different framing of it, right? I'm not calling them in to scold them and say, you're not doing this, you're not doing this. I'm saying, you could be this.
Right.
This is how this could be. I'd like to inspire men. I don't want to tell them off. I don't want to moan at them. I don't want to nag. I don't want to be their mother. I want to show them what the world could be like for them. That's all. Like, I want to present more positive male role models. I don't want to just shit on the worst, cockroaches of the manosphere and keep talking about them. I want to get away from hyper-focusing on them and focus on the great men in society, the great dads, the great community members, the men who stand up for women, the men who are not so insecure that they just follow the orders of patriarchy. Well, fucking loser. Like, men who lead independently. I believe that femininity is inherently more rebellious and individual than masculinity from what I see. And I don't know if
really
that's
interesting.
I don't know if that's nature or nurture, but I do know that men are more likely to fall in line. We see more men in the army, more men in ICE, more men going down to do the more dangerous jobs for a wealthy man up top. I think that men tend to be more submissive, more likely to follow orders, and I think more likely to take cue from one another as to how to behave. And I think some men feel afraid to step outside of the rules of patriarchy and embrace a bit of their feminine energy. But all the men who have gone on to do the greatest and most rebellious things tend to be embracing of their feminine side. They tend to be able to be soft, and they tend to be able to break the rules. The true rule breakers to me are always a bit more on the feminine side.
Yeah.
Who are people?
Listen, if she's got boys, oh my God, whoever the father is, please stay in that young man, that boy's life, please, because the boys is probably toast. But this woman had the ever-loving nerd and the cotton-picking gall to say that femininity is rebellious. Imagine wanting men to be more softer while also acknowledging a rebellious spirit within your soul. That's why I say that this bullshit in front of us, it's not about working together. It's about controlling men so that you can live well within your rebellious Delilah spirit, far from the structure of what a man would command. This is exactly the play. They want to turn men into women to try to move themselves into the masculine seat. Men do not fall in line because they're weak or submissive of what she asserted. Men follow leadership because we understand order, structure, and the mission at hand. And because there is a mission or a purpose, we respect hierarchy because it's tied to responsibility of your duties and then the outcomes or the results. This is how families move together. This is how families build wealth together. This is the foundation of how societies are built. Not this weak ass, everybody hold hands and sing Kumbaya and let's egalitarian every goddamn thing. And you're stuck in analysis paralysis as opposed to rank and file and get it goddamn done. What she's actually promoting here and what she stands by this femininity is rebellious shit is the exact mindset that a man needs to identify in a young modern woman if you are dating them and stay far away from them. They do whatever they feel and never hold themselves to a standard, and they damn sure never hold themselves accountable. And if you allow their rebellious nature to rule you, you'll again get an Akash Singh's wife, which will represent the fall of your masculinity, which will represent the fall of your manhood, which will represent the fall of the family, because structure and order need not apply. These are the people that want authority without duty and they want power without sacrifice. Guys, I can't do this any longer. We're going to have to end the content here. I did not think this was going to go in as many directions as what this did, but there's just so much wrong fundamentally with this conversation, and I just find it so interesting that she's speaking to somebody who became famous in the way that she did, and we only know of her due to sexual proclivities with the most powerful man in the world at that time. And now, 20 to 30 years later, she can utilize the fame from that time to come back on these podcast streets to push these bullshit ass feminist narratives. Contrary to what this psycho over here thinks, men today are not checking out because they're misogynists that hate women. Men are checking out because chaos is expensive, yet peace is priceless. So why would a man prioritize somebody who thinks that her femininity is rebellious in nature when we understand that the divine combination of a healed masculine man and a healed masculine woman is amazing? It's an amazing combination. When these work well together, then you create families. When these work well together, then you create men that will sacrifice everything for these families. And this has been proven time and time again throughout our history. And I ain't going to be the one here to say everything was roses, peaches, and cream, back within our history. All right. But to continue to act like you still live in this horrific regime where, right, like it's like a male Gestapo that's trying to take away all of your damn rights is so insane for you to be constantly doing. I got other content that I want to talk about here today. I can continue on talking shit, but I want to leave you guys with these thoughts. No matter what, do understand that, these internet conversations, although these mongrels will influence generations of women to come, do understand that there's still fantastic women out there that will go out their way to understand that these are living devils that are trying to break us apart and will avoid this content like the plague. And for the ladies out there, the MTRs that take a look at this and understand how destructive, how obtrusive that this information is to you forming a loving bond and lasting relationship with a man worth his weight in salt. Kudos to you. Round of applause for you for being able to recognize that. All right. Questions, comments, concerns. Y'all already know what to do. Mediocre tutorials and reviews at gmail.com. Light up the comment section. Shout out to Oros for sponsoring today's video. Get your private information off of these public websites. All right. You do not want your private information for psycho babblers like this to be able to do something unscrupulous with it. All right. Utilize my link down below to get 2 weeks free. All right. At least see if your private information has been exposed. Go right now. And until next time, peace.
So, without further ado, MTR, cut through the BS like we in charge. No cap with the rappers like steel bars. I'm packing and rapping like here we are. Mediocre tutorial reviews. Like, comment, share my views. Come up and I paid my dues. Big step in my black way shoes. MTR, he break it down, yeah, it's MTR. Check out the sound with his MTR. No one put it down like it's MTR.